Okay, I think I'm live. And somebody has already liked the video, so we're doing great. Okay, if you're watching, and that might just be Claire, go ahead and let me know that you're here in the chat at any point. Okay, cool. All right. So, I'm just playing around here because I haven't done this before. Analytics. Okay, Claire is here. The stream is healthy, fun. All right. Okay, so today's topic is my favorite virtual facilitation tools. And I'm going to get into the things that I use all the time and then the things that I wish I used more, but that I really, really enjoy. So recently I was in a session where people were asking, I do a lot of virtual facilitation, or my team doesn't believe that we can have really good sessions that we do online. Can you tell me your favorite virtual tools? And I was like, yes. And I thought that we would just jump into that today. So that's what we're going to do, or rather that's going to be the theme of the live stream. And if you have questions at any point, if you pop in to the chat at any point, please feel free to drop questions related or unrelated to virtual facilitation. So I'm going to just put that. Let's see if I can pin this. Boom. Okay. All right. All right. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to start with one of the tools that I have been using longest in virtual facilitation, and that is AhaSlides. So if you're familiar with Poll Everywhere or Mentimeter, then you are familiar with the concept of live polling. And the idea with live polling is basically you're going to put something up and people are going to answer it instantaneously, and then you'll be able to see their responses in live time. This is a really handy tool for in-person facilitation as well, especially if you're working with large groups, because you can get everybody's responses kind of like in the aggregate on the live polling. So I'm going to show you the tool that I like for live polling, which is AhaSlides, and I'll show you a couple of different things that I like about it. So let's do that. Let's jump over there. Okay. Ka-chow. So let's just show you what you will come to. So when you open up AhaSlides, this is what you'll see. And if you don't have an account, you'll see that Getting Started button. Because I have an account, it'll jump me over to the presentations. And as you can see, I have done quite a few of these these are all different sessions that I've run. And let's start with a blank one. And I can just kind of show you what it will look like when you do this for the first time. So, okay. So, all right. So we've got a couple of different options. So AhaSlides is something that you can use for live polling, and you can also use it for quizzes and games. I have not done as much of that, so I won't be speaking to that very much at this moment, but we can kind of instead get into this idea of opinion and Q&A. So I will often use AhaSlides when I'm facilitating for a large group. I will use AhaSlides so I can get everybody's kind of voice into the room without actually having to get everybody speaking. So I can ask them, on a scale of 1 to 5, how tired are you at the moment? Or how long have you spent on Zoom? Or what's one word that you are... I don't do a lot of one-word check-ins. Let me think of another one. How would you describe what we're going to be talking about in 5 words or less, right? Those type of kind of open-ended questions on AhaSlides, it's really easy to get people's ideas, display them to folks, and then be able to kind of like get their voices in the room. So let's see what that looks like. So I often do a word cloud to start with, and this might be something like, where are you calling in from? I tend to do something that no one will have to think much about and just get an initial response from people as kind of the question that orients people to the program, right? Rather than have them like start thinking when they get there, but just get them to respond right away when they get there. There's a bunch of different toggles and things that you can change, but that's how fast it is in AhaSlides to set up a question. So you just saw me set that up, and we've got one entry per participant, and so this is what it will look like on their end. Where are you calling in from? I'm calling in from Barrie, Vermont. Ooh, no comma. Okay. Submit. And that's what will happen. And so as they come in, you can see them live, or you can hide the results until you want to show them. We are obviously in facilitator mode right now. What it will look like when you're in presenter mode is you'll just see the slide and none of that other information. So I often start off with a word cloud of some sort, or an open-ended question, or a poll. So let's see some other types that I use a lot. So poll, I will often ask like, how long have you been on Zoom today? 0 to 1 hour. These are like already filled in there because I have asked this a lot of times, which is cool that it remembers that. And boom. So now we've got our poll. And again, this is what it would look like to participants when you're kind of screen sharing or displaying this. And this is what it would look like for them to respond. So I've been on Zoom for 3 to 5 hours a day. Jam. And the response is instantaneous. So that's really cool. I like hiding my results initially when people are doing it, so that people aren't kind of swayed and don't see everybody's, and then there's a little bit more of a reveal. And you can do that when you're in presenter mode just by hitting that button. So that's really neat. So that's word cloud, that's polls. Let's see what other ones that I often use. Open-ended. So I'll sometimes ask people like, how would you describe something, or how would you define something? So how would you describe facilitation? And you can add some like additional context, like 5 words or less. And this is what it will look like on their side. So my favorite thing about AhaSlides is just the speed at which you can make it. So you don't have to, like, it doesn't take a ton of time to set up, but also I can do this like in the middle of a session. So that's one of the reasons I use AhaSlides over Zoom polls, because Zoom has a couple of different options. When you're in Zoom, you can set up a poll that kind of has this same, what type of question is this? This kind of like, pick out of these choices thing. You can totally do that in Zoom, but I just find it kind of clunky. Oh, hey, Jason. I find it kind of clunky, and it really wants you to set up those polls ahead of time. And while I do that, I find it a lot faster to use AhaSlides to set that up. So it looks a lot like Mentimeter, which is great. Is there any distinct advantages of Aha over Mentimeter? Yeah, so I would say yes and no. So one of the things that I struggle with when it comes to like virtual facilitation in general is that you kind of have to like pick a thing and then stick to it. Or at least that's been my kind of like, that's been what I've done, is I've picked one and I've stuck to it. AhaSlides and Mentimeter are super, super similar. Like, they have a lot of the same question types. They have a lot of the same features. The reason I picked Aha over Mentimeter, like initially, was because Aha has a better free tier. So with Aha, you can set up as many questions as you like. And as long as you have less than 7 participants, at least this was what was true when I started with it. We can go check it out in the pricing right now, then you can do as much as you want to kind of get to know the platform and get to practice with it. With Mentimeter, you could only set up 2 questions before it was kind of like, hey, you have to purchase me now. And so for me, I really wanted the ability to like test out all of these different things and to like play around with it before committing to buying something. So that was the reason I chose Aha over Mentimeter. I also find it just a little bit faster, but that was really the big thing for me. So yeah, that's still true. AHA has this like up to 7 live participants. It is free forever, unlimited questions, unlimited quiz. So that's just really nice in order to like get to know it. And I think Mentimeter, let's go look. Mentimeter. Oh my gosh, I cannot spell it. Mentimeter, there it goes. Let's look at Mentimeter's pricing. So free 2 question slides. So that was the thing for me, as I was just like, I can't explore and play around with this enough before I hit that paywall. And so that's what got me on AhaSlides. I do think the pricing is a little bit lower too. Like you can start paying for 50 live participants at $5 a month, and Mentimeter starts at 12. So that's just something to think about. But yeah, they're very similar. And I would say if you like Menti, like great. I don't know if there's a good enough reason to switch between them. But I wanted to make sure to like share AhaSlides in case people had never heard of it before or haven't ever explored any of the live polling software, because I do think it's really powerful. And there has been like multiple sessions that I've run where I'm actually building polls live while people are talking, that I would never do that with a Zoom poll because it like makes me open another screen and it just kind of disorients me. So that's one of the reasons I really love AhaSlides. There's also a cool, so they have a really great Q&A slide feature, which is neat. So with Q&A, you can set it up so that like you have this Ask Me Anything slide, right? So this is what it will look like when you present it. And on the participants view, they can just ask any question they want. It can be anonymous or not. But my other favorite thing about this is that they can vote on other people's. So they can upvote like, ooh, I like this question too. And so if you have a group of like 50 people, you don't even have to ask a question in order to like say, please answer that one. And so I really, really like that option for Q&As. And there's this neat feature where you can make it possible for people to ask you questions on any slide. So that's pretty neat as well. And I tend to use just the Q&A feature all by itself. And then there's ways for you to like moderate the questions. So like, let's say you have a group of like 300 people, then you can, have somebody acting as the moderator, letting questions through, which is really neat. So let me hop back to one of the like sessions where maybe I'll have questions in it. I'm now trying to think of which one would. Let's see. Maybe this one will have questions. Let's find out. Okay. Please reload. Let's see. Okay. Well, we've got, here we go. Yes. Cool. So here's, this is a session that I did with like, I think 600 people with 600 students. And so this question has 32 upvotes, which is pretty neat. I can pin them too. So I can say, okay, let me answer this question first. And then I can unpin it. And then you can also mark it as answered, which is neat. So like, okay, cool. I've talked about this question. I'm going to go ahead and mark it as answered. And now it drops down to this like answered bucket. So just as a facilitator, that is just a lot of control and organization that they make really, really easy. So I really like that feature in the Q&A. I do think that Q&A like this is really powerful, again, with those large groups. And just while we're here, I can also show you what kind of open-ended questions look like in the response. So like this has 364 open-ended answers, and it just collects them, and you can just kind of scroll through them. You can read them out if you want to or not. I was using this mostly just to like understand how the session landed for my participants. But yeah, it's really neat that you can also click on them and they kind of pop up bigger. So that can be just like handy ways to understand different pieces of information. Jason, if you have other questions on AhaSlides or on a different technology, like if you want to guide us in a new direction, feel free to do that as well. So we looked at polls, we looked at open-ended questions. And I think the last thing I'll say about AhaSlides while we're here is that you can actually build your whole presentation in it, which is something that I sometimes do if I have regular slides. So like this is just an image slide that I imported, and I can flow that in between. I can flow that in between like the polls. So if you're like, I have slides like questions or data I want to present to people, then you can actually do that in between the polls, which I think is really neat. So that is handy, and that's a way you can kind of import Google Slides directly, or you can actually just design a slide straight in AhaSlides. So like, let's see, this one. This is a slide that I actually made right within the software itself. So again, that's just like a really flexible and fast way to do it. As somebody who sometimes doesn't like give myself enough time to prepare, having software that allows me to be like really responsive and flexible and be quick on my feet when I'm working with it, that is something I really value. So the infomercial for AhaSlides has ended now. Yeah, I think it's a neat thing. I've used it a lot, and I think that it fits the bill for polling and for making sessions that could just be single direction, like you talking to them, making it a little bit more interactive. I think that's a really neat thing that you can make it do. Okay. All right, so if there aren't any other questions about live polling, then we're going to hop over to another software, and we're going to hop over to Mural. So much like the world of live polling, there is a ton of options when it comes to essentially like collaborative whiteboard tools. So if you are a facilitator and you think, well, I use whiteboards, flip charts, sticky notes, I do those when I'm in person. These are essentially the like Mural and similar tools like it will be software that would replace that, that would replace those kind of like in-person tools. So yeah, so I'm gonna hop over to Mural and kind of show you around there. Let's see. I was just going to take a moment to just hop over to Instagram and let people know that this is what we're doing. So let me do that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to Claire and ask Claire, hey Claire, post a story saying we're about to get into Mural on the Instagram stories, and then maybe link people to this, and we'll see if anybody will join us. Okay, I'm going to do that. All right, so Mural, M-U-R-A-L, is the software that I use for replacing my flip charts, sticky notes, whiteboard online. And there's a really similar one to Miro. I genuinely don't experience them as particularly different. Again, it's one of those, like, whichever one you started with is probably the one you want to land with. And I don't think that there's kind of like a wrong choice there. So let's hop over to Mural, and I'll kind of show you around. So, I need to sign in. Okay, perfect. So we've used Mural a couple of different ways. As facilitator cards. So our most recent way we use Mural is basically, instead of sticky notes, we were using Mural to brainstorm ideas. So I ran a session recently where we were coming up with, we were running the process 100 ideas. It's one of our facilitator cards. Let's see if I can go find it here. Yeah, so there's a facilitator card, 100 ideas, and we were running that process and seeing, could we come up with 100 icebreaker questions? And what we did before kind of organizing them like this is I just had a blank mural. So actually, let me just show you what it looked like. Blank mural. So we had a totally blank mural, and what people needed to do is basically find their own spot on the mural where there wasn't anybody else. And I sent them the link in the Zoom chat, had them open this up, and I said, double click and you will create a sticky note. And then go ahead and type an icebreaker question. So weirdest thing you've put on your feet? I don't know. That's what came to mind right now. Then once you've made one, I just want you to go ahead and make 10 sticky notes of icebreaker questions as fast as possible. They don't have to be good. They don't have to be bad. You don't need to think about like whether you would ever use them. This is just 10 questions as fast as you can. And everybody just started typing. One thing I like with Mural is that you can press, let me see. Can you press tab? Oh, it's not working now. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay, so if you're typing in one and then you press tab, it'll like make another, so it's really fast to make these questions. And that's what we did. We made a bunch of sticky notes, and then after we had generated all of those, we organized them into this like kind of prettier grid here of 100 questions. So if you are interested in checking that out, I'll just leave the link in the chat. Ooh, oh no. I'll leave the link in the chat if you want to see that. If you want to see that 100 ideas icebreaker questions mural. And then I will also just show you around a couple other features that I've used as a facilitator with Mural. So making sticky notes is super powerful, and I would say is not to be underestimated in like how many different ways you can use that ability, right? So you can just do sticky note generator types of things. You can do mind maps. You can do a lot of like anything where moving them around is really helpful. So sometimes if you want to do like a timeline map or let's actually look. I'm going to pause on the Mural thing for a second and just look at the facilitator cards and see which ones use sticky notes that I would use Mural for them instead. Ooh, that one's an interesting one. We could use it for that. Let's see. 100 ideas. By the way, I will turn it to a different view here. Boom. Okay, so these are facilitator cards. If you're here, you might know what they are. So each of these cards is like a process or a way to work with a group and move people through an activity or a framework. And they've got the description on the back of the card. And what I'm doing right now is I'm looking for processes that I think would work, or kind of like activity structures that I think would work on Mural, or that I've used Mural to do. So on some of the the facilitator cards, you actually see this little icon, this middle one, that's a sticky note. So I'm looking for cards that have that sticky note, just like 100 ideas does. And, but there's also some paper and pen ones that I think would work really well too. So that's what I am looking for. There's the classic sticky note generator. Oh yeah, timeline map. Subcommittees I've totally used. Fill in the model, that would work. 5 whys. Okay, we've got quite a few here. So we will probably pause on this soon. SWOT analysis would work. Okay, I'm almost through. Urgent, important, dot voting. Oh yeah, we got to do dot voting. Got to show you that. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jason. I also love the card cam and was very happy with this one. Okay, so let's look at a couple of these. I'm gonna look at the ones that I've like definitely done on Mural before, and I'll kind of show you how they work. So dot voting, there's like a really cool built-in thing. We kind of did. I showed you what sticky note generator can look like just a moment ago, which is kind of similar with 100 ideas, and then I'll show you spectrum questions. Urgent versus important. I've done that one. And subcommittees. Okay, so I'll show you those ones. And I think all of that will probably cover the ways in which you would do these other ones as well. Cool. Okay, we'll leave those to the side. If anybody watching is like, could you use Mural for this process or for this card, feel free to throw that in the chat and I will like absolutely speak to that one specifically. But for now, I'll just start by kind of showing you how to work through these. how to work through these on Mural. And even if you don't have facilitator cards, then you will still have new ideas for using Mural. And if you have facilitator cards, then you will have a lot more understanding of like how to work these in Mural. So that'll be great for everybody. Okay. So this idea of just sticky note generating or doing 100 ideas, right? Just making a bunch of sticky notes that individuals can do. All you need to do to tell your participants how to do this is tell them double click. That's the only instruction I give when I'm helping groups get oriented over to Mural. Other than, I guess that's a lie. There's one more instruction that I give, and that is that I tell them to click this navigation. Oh wow, why is that so prominent? Go away, Mural. All right, cool. So this navigation setting down here, that's the only other thing I instruct my groups to look at, is I say, when you get into the Mural, close all the pop-ups and open up this navigation thing and just choose trackpad or mouse, depending on what you're on. And once they know that, they'll have a much easier time moving around the Mural because they can use their scroll wheel on their mouse or pinch and zoom. And then the only other instruction I give is just that double click. So I really like that. I just really like the simplicity, because sometimes with technology, it can be really overwhelming for participants to like learn it. And this one you don't have to. So in order to run 100 ideas or sticky note generator, that is all people need to know how to do. So once you have a bunch of sticky notes, so let's go back to one that has a bunch of stickies. So let's say if we were all in this 100 icebreaker idea, and I said, okay, we're going to create a resource together and we're going to highlight 15 of our favorites. Like, let's say there's like 50 of us who are voting on this, or even just 5 of us who are voting on this. We could do that with dot voting. So up here at the top of Mural, you'll see this little icon and it says voting session. So that is actually a dot voting feature that's built straight into Mural. So you can just go ahead and click start voting session, and then you get all these options. So you can title it, which could be neat. Like you could title it, like initial choices. And maybe you want everyone to pick like, okay, let's pick our personal 10 favorites. I just want to be the one who ends it. And then what can they vote on? So anything is fine. And then we hit start. And then it tells, this is a prompt that it will show everybody. And then you just go ahead and click begin voting. So this is what it will look like for your participants when you do this, is they'll just go ahead and select the different things. And you can see like, I have 6 votes left right up here. So they'll vote. And when you have a bunch of people right here, you'll be able to see everybody's in that list, and you'll be able to see how many votes they have left. You can also set a timer that everyone can see if you want to do that. And then once everybody's voted, you hit end voting session, and then it tabulates the votes like this. So if we had a bunch of different votes, it would have said like, these were the ones that had 7 votes, or these were the ones that had 6 votes, or whatever it is. And they'll kind of do that all the way down to the ones that had 1 vote. So that's pretty neat. And really fast in dot voting. And then you can actually see which cards had what numbers, like that'll stay present if you want to. If you close out of the dot voting session, then it won't. But you can also go back and show the votes. So that's really nice for dot voting. If like for that example that I was giving you, if we wanted to be able to pull those questions out, then we can do that and do that pretty quickly. So yep, so that's dot voting on basically something that you sticky note generated. Okay, so let's look at a couple other ways to use Mural. So one way to use Mural is kind of hacky, but I've tried it and it actually worked pretty well. So what I did is, so if you are somebody who has spent time in in-person workshops, then you have probably had to do a strongly agree over here, strongly disagree over here. I'm going to read a statement as a facilitator, and I want you to move according to where you see, like, I prefer facilitating alone. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, right? And put yourself along that spectrum. So that idea of spectrum questions is kind of tricky to do, or at least like it doesn't seem obvious how to do that online. So you can actually do that on something like Mural, and you can even do a little bit more of a hacky way on Zoom itself, which I will mention again later. So on Mural, you can basically set up that spectrum and have everybody exist as either like a sticky note or an avatar, like a little image of themselves. So let's hop over to Mural and see how this would work. So I'm going to just make a line. Okay, I've made a line, and then we're going to do strongly agree. Whoop, on one end of the line, and then we're going to do strongly disagree on the other end. Okay, and I'm going to lock all of this down so that I don't keep moving it around as I build everything else. So now we've got our spectrum, and what we need now is the ability for people to like indicate where they are. So one really simple thing you could do is invite everybody in and say, okay, I want you to, when you get to this spectrum, I want you to double click, and I want you to go ahead and write your name on your sticky note. Okay, and that's your sticky. And that's going to serve as kind of like your little indicator of where you are on the spectrum. Strongly agree to strongly disagree. I'm going to read a statement. I prefer facilitating by myself, and place your sticky note anywhere on the spectrum that feels right to you, right? That would be one way to use, that would be one way to run this idea of spectrum questions using Mural. If you wanted to get a little fancier, or maybe you have the same group every time, you have people who are coworkers, and you can kind of do the same, you know who's going to be there, and that's going to be the same people. Then you could also bring in like photos of people. So let me see if I can find a photo of myself. Okay, there we go. Boom. So instead of just having me as a sticky note, now I'm just like a little photo of myself, and I can move me around. And man, even just seeing that, I'm like, that's so much better than the sticky note. It feels so much more personal. And as a facilitator, it would also make it a little bit like you would want to do this with people that you know, their names to their faces, so that you can say, hey, Meg, you're down there and strongly disagree. Like, can you let us know, blah, blah, blah. Or if you set this up ahead of time, then you could also, and you don't know their names, but you have asked for their photos, you could also be like, I'm going to go ahead and actually like label people and make them a group. And so now we've got Meg moving around. So that would be another way to do it. But to me, one of the beauties of the like process spectrum questions is just this idea that people can kind of tell you where they're at without vocalizing it. But then as facilitators, we can invite people like, hey, okay, there's Meg and there's Shane and there's Lauren down there at Strongly Agree. Why don't the three of you tell us a little bit about like what that means to you, or like why you placed yourself where you did. So that could be like, it just allows you to invite specific people to speak for specific reasons. And I think this works really well. If you're watching this live or later and you think this works, or you can see yourself using it, I would love to know in the comments, because I really think as soon as I put the picture on there, I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. Okay, so that was spectrum questions. And then other ways I've used Mural. So with Mural, I'm doing stuff like just building it live, but you can get really fancy with Mural ahead of time. I tend not to. I'm not that graphically gifted, but you can do things ahead of time to kind of like set people up to use the Mural in particular ways. So let me show you one way that I have done that in the past. Let's see. This one? Probably, Yeah. So there's when I'm running sessions on facilitations, like longer trainings on facilitations, one of the things that we get into is this idea of what's the difference between teaching, lecturing, and facilitating, right? And the way that I actually move people through that is I put them into subcommittees, and one of the subcommittees takes facilitating, one takes teaching, and one takes lecturing. And what their jobs are is to basically define that thing, that like mode of engaging a group, and then tell me what it's good at and tell me what it's bad at. What are the pros and what are the cons? And so the way that I facilitate that in person is I give people a flip chart. This is my stand-in for my flip chart. But I give people a flip chart and I just tell them, okay, like I just divide the flip chart into 3 parts, and I say, up here, I want you to write the definition. Can be words, can be whole sentences, whatever you want. And then this is the pros. That's supposed to be a plus sign. And this is the cons. And I just want you to list them out. And so they'll get a flip chart piece of paper that looks something like this with like the word teaching right at the top. So I wanted to emulate this online, right? I wanted to be able to give them essentially a flip chart and say, fill that in. And so that's what I've used Mural for ever since I needed to be able to do that. So this is what it is. I've set up ahead of time this little grid that I made with Mural just using shapes that I then locked down. And we've got facilitating. And then again, it says definition, write it up here, pros and cons. And then all they do is just make sticky notes and put them in the right places. So anytime that you are running a process where there's maybe you want people to like put certain ideas in certain places, or again, you would in physical workshops, give them flip charts or sticky notes or a set of instructions to fill out, you can do that on Mural. And that's one of the ways that I run subcommittees on Mural. Okay, the last one is kind of a combination of those two, I guess. It's a structure that you can do ahead of time, like with urgent and important. So you make an urgent and important grid, and then you can move stickies to where those fall for you on a grid. So we actually, like, I don't just use Mural to facilitate, I also use it to run facilitator cards. Not heavily, but like this is one way we do it. So like these are all the things that we're thinking about focusing on or working on at facilitator cards, and they are plotted out on this urgent and important grid. So the higher up here in the corner they are, the more urgent and important they are. And what's cool about this is like some things can not, like maybe that's not urgent or important right now, right? But it's still something that you want to see or focus on or just have available to you. So yeah, that's another way that we've used Mural. There are so many templates on Mural to explore that they've already created. There's a ton of retrospectives of like people doing them in different ways. And yeah, there's a ton of options on here. So, and you can sort them. Okay, cool. So like just icebreakers. Favorite ways to check in. Yeah, there's a ton to, decorate a festive sweater. See, like random stuff like that. So there's a lot of ways to use Mural. I showed you just a few of the ways we use it. But I think that if you have people who think, I don't know if you can do real collaborative or interesting or just like fun dynamic things online, I think a sticky something that stands in for a collaborative whiteboard is really, really interesting. So let's just look at one of these that's look how cool this is. Oh my gosh, it's just so cute. This was definitely made by a graphic facilitator. The agenda's all cute. Yeah, so you can get real fancy with it, or you can use it like I did, which is just really simple. Sticky notes, grids. It's kind of like the world of dot journaling or bullet journaling. It's like the world of bullet journaling. You can get really fancy or you can get really simple. Yeah, either way is good, but don't get intimidated by all the Pinterest bullet journals. Find what works for you. Okay, so we have talked about AhaSlides. We have talked about Mural. Let's if anyone wants to take us in any particular direction, please feel free to throw it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? I'm going to talk about Zoom for a little bit, because I think that a lot of people don't think of Zoom as a technology. They think of Zoom as the like platform and place to start, and that like you have to do the cool stuff outside of Zoom. And I think there's actually a couple of really interesting ways to use Zoom, because of how it works to live stream from Zoom. Yeah, you're so welcome. I can't actually show you some of these things. So I'll just like, I'll try to share what I can, but I can't show you the like Zoom annotation feature but I'll try to show you as much as I can. Okay, so I just want to show you a couple of the like cool things that you can do in Zoom that I think people underestimate their kind of like dynamicism, or like the way in which they can make a workshop more interesting. So here is my empty Zoom room. So sad. Empty Zoom. Okay, so let's get it so that we can see it here. All right. Cool. Did that work? Oh yeah, that works even better. Perfect. Okay, so we've got our Zoom and a couple of features that I'm gonna just like highlight for folks. So one is we all use the chat probably quite often as facilitators. I think the chat is one of those features that when we go back to in person, we will actually really miss the ability for people to just like not just have to talk, but still be able to publicly share all the time in the chat. So having people use the chat in different ways, I think is a really interesting thing to do. So couple of ways that I use it. There's the just like respond, throw questions, comments, concerns, like things that you want to like, you know, put out there to the group, throw those in the chat. That's the simplest way. That's the way I see everybody using it. Another way to like just make it a little bit more dynamic is asking people to write a response, but not hit send until you say so. So like just the idea of, okay, I'm going to ask you to, I do this all the time with one of the facilitator cards. So opposite thinking, here we go. Opposite thinking is just this idea of like, instead of saying, what makes a great facilitator? Ask, or what makes a great leader? Ask, what makes a terrible leader? If you wanted to be a terrible leader, give me one way you could do that. And rather than just having people throw all of those ideas in the chat simultaneously, what I'll have them do is, okay, I want you to think of one way that you could be a truly terrible leader. I want you to type that into the chat, but not hit send. And then I'll give everybody, 10, 15 seconds, and then 3, 2, 1, hit send, and they all come in. I call it a chat storm. Some people call it a chatterfall. And they all come in at once. And the reason I like that is it avoids groupthink, and I think it lowers the bar of participation just a little bit. It makes it a little bit safer because you don't know what everybody else is going to say, so it doesn't feel as like, you don't feel quite as self-conscious about what you are sharing. And then you have this list that you can do things with. So just that idea of like, the chat in Zoom can actually be used a number of different ways. You can have people put things in there constantly. You can have them do it all at once. You can have them direct message each other, like on purpose, rather than just have them do it because they're like, oh, I saw it. It's so good to see you, like that kind of thing. You can actually use that as like a function or a way in your Zoom to like bring in some different types of involvement. So chat is a really powerful feature, and I don't think we should underestimate it. The other thing that I think is really powerful, and again, this is the thing that won't seem to screen share effectively, is this tool called a whiteboard. So let me see if it will show up here. Yeah, cool. So we're probably all used to going up to screen share and then finding the thing we want to share and then hitting, let's do that. Let's start that share. It's worth exploring the advanced tab. But also this idea of this whiteboard. So the whiteboard in Zoom, oh, it is letting me show it. Perfect. So the whiteboard in Zoom is this like really undervalued tool. Okay, I'm trying to get it so that it's like full size without being bigger. Perfect. Okay. So a couple of ways you can use this whiteboard in in Zoom. So you can actually do like a hacky version of some of the stuff that I showed you in Mural. So let's draw a line. And then again, we can put strongly agree. Oh, I'm not going to be, oh, well, let's see if I can move it afterward. Yep, there we go. Strongly agree. Don't try to style it too much, Meg. Okay, strongly agree. And strongly disagree. Okay, so now we've got our spectrum again. And when you are screen sharing, when you are screen sharing a whiteboard, and when you're screen sharing anything in Zoom, you can have people annotate it. So it won't look like this on their screen, or it won't look like this on their screen. And instead it will say Meg Bolger or whoever it is sharing their screen. And then right next to that will be a button that says View Options. And when they press that View Options button, one of them will say annotation. And when they click that, as long as you have it enabled, which you just need to do right here. So in that More tab, there's Disable and then Enable an annotation for others. As soon as you click that, they'll have the option to annotate and they'll get this toolbar. And what I have done is I've said, okay, take your stamp tool and place it on the spectrum according to whether you strongly agree or strongly disagree. So, boop, I strongly disagree. Or, oh, I strongly agree. And when people are doing that, you can see, like, as a facilitator, not positive if they can see it, but you can see their names really briefly as they click, right? So what I'll do is I'll draw on my, like on a notebook that I've got next to me, I'll draw the spectrum and I'll note as people are writing down, I'll be like, okay, Sam, Dennis, Jose, like down here, it's strongly disagree. And then I'll write, okay, Jason, Claire, like up here, it's strongly agree. And I'll be able to then call back to people. It's a little hackier than what we showed on Mural with our like beautiful one with the people's, images and all that kind of stuff. Like that's definitely hackier than that, but it does work. And so that's a really cool thing to be able to do in Zoom, is just this idea of like strongly agree, strongly disagree. And there's a lot of ways that you can use this whiteboard. So one thing that's cool is you can then clear all the viewers' drawings. So you can, did it work? Let's clear all drawings. Okay. I don't know why I wasn't clearing just the, because I was like, why isn't it clearing the viewer? I'm the viewer. So it wasn't going to clear it would have cleared their drawings if you had a bunch of participants while leaving yours. So that's cool. So there's spectrum questions, there's like 4 quadrant activities. You can have people doodle and like type things. You can do kind of like, you could do a really simple sticky note generator on here if you were just like trying to get a bunch of ideas. And then there's also the ability to like share something that people can draw on. So you could set up that spectrum ahead of time on a slide, and you could actually share that and use that same annotation feature. So something that I've seen people do before is do some like coloring with their groups. So if you get like if you just pull up a coloring page, I'm going to do it right now. Let's see if we can find one without it being watermarked. Probably not. Okay, so not at this short notice. So let's see, I'll still show you what it will look like anyway though. So if you go to screen share, if you go to screen share, go to screen share, use advanced and then portion of the screen. That will let you screen share any specific like little part of the screen. So if you were all participants in my Zoom right now, all that you would see is what's in the orange box to doodle on. And then again, if you have them annotate, then you can encourage people to draw and be like, okay, we have a couple minutes, go ahead and fill in the drawing, we're going to do like a group doodle. And like, this is just like kind of a really random, novel way to use Zoom. And again, they don't see all of this stuff around the image. All they would see is just what's in the middle here. And so I'm sure that you like, one way I've used it is I've had everybody like color in where they're calling in from, or color in like a place that they would like to go. So those are just like, you know, they're random. They're like little ways to really change up the interaction. So that's another like thing that people just never think to do on Zoom that I think could be really powerful, without ever having to like leave the platform or have people use a different technology. So it'll feel really different because they haven't probably used Zoom like that before, but it's interesting. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left, and let's see, should we do Stream Deck, or should we do other platforms that are not Zoom or that are not Zoom? I'm gonna let you all, could just be Claire, but I would love if you're watching this, I can talk about one more thing in the next 10 minutes, and it can either be this technology that I use every single time I facilitate, which is called Stream Deck. It's really for me, supports me as a facilitator, not for the participants, or we can talk about basically Zoom alternative platforms. We'll see which ones you think. Stream Deck it is. Okay, so let's go back to Card Cam real quick. Okay, so one of the things that's tricky about showing people Stream Deck is that, okay, so one thing that's tricky about showing people Stream Deck is that I use Stream Deck to like operate this, what I'm showing you right now. So every time you've seen me like switch between views, you know, like this setup or going back to this setup, the way I'm doing that is I'm pressing a button on Stream Deck. So Stream Deck is, and I'm going to go Card Cam and you'll actually see it. So Stream Deck is this little piece of hardware. It doesn't come up great on camera because it's actually shining light at the camera. So let's see if I can make it a little bit better here. Doop, doop, doop. Oh, no, I made it worse. Okay. That's a little bit better. All right, so this is Stream Deck. Stream Deck is basically a bunch of keys that you can program to do whatever you can do on your computer with keyboard shortcuts and more. So Stream Deck is like most commonly used and was built as a video game streamer tool, right? So they wanted to be able to switch back and forth between different scenes, and they wanted to be able to do, you know, like be able to hit a button and have a sound play, or like, you know, different things like that. I'm not a video game streamer, so I should probably stop guessing what they wanted it to do. I found it and I use it for every facilitation and general workflow stuff. So let me show you a setup that I used for a facilitation yesterday. So this is my setup on Stream Deck for a session we run every month called Card Sharks. And I also use Stream Deck in conjunction with OBS. OBS is what is making my camera look like this to you right now. So we won't have time to get into that, so I'll try to just explain Stream Deck. Even without OBS, I'll show you what I use it for. So one thing that I use Stream Deck to do is run timers. So as a facilitator, every time I say like, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes in your breakout rooms, it's so hard to remember to just set a timer for that. So I've just got a button on Stream Deck that's set for 5 minutes. And so if I press that, it will just start counting down a 5-minute timer. And I use that every time I facilitate all the time. The other way that I often use Stream Deck is I've got messages pre-programmed in there that I want to send into the chat at some point. So all of, like, I've got a blue scenario, I've got a green scenario, and I've got a red one, like different scenarios that relate to facilitator cards. And so this text is all, there's text like queued up on this button. And so all I have to do is press that button and you'll be able to see the text. So let me figure out how I can best show you this. Let's go back here and let's go back to Zoom. Okay, so we're in Zoom. And what I will do is I am currently, I'll try to hold it up here actually so you can see it. So here's Stream Deck. Yikes. Knocking things over on my desk. So here's Stream Deck. Here's our Zoom. So this is what I do when I'm in Zoom. I'll have the chat open and I'll be like, okay, so I'm going to throw that blue scenario in the chat. And it will have the text that I've already queued up like ahead of time before my session. And it will just go ahead and type the text and send it into the chat. So that way I don't have to copy and paste anything at any point during my session. I can just be like, okay, we're ready for that green scenario. Let me read it out and also let me put it in the chat. Boop. And then it's in the chat. So I use that all the time. And I can also control the Zoom chat from my Stream Deck. So again, I'll show you, like I can just close the window from the Stream Deck. So that's because Zoom has a ton of keyboard shortcuts. And all I've programmed my Stream Deck to do is just use that keyboard shortcut to open and close the chat. I don't remember what the keyboard shortcut is, which is why I never used it before I had a Stream Deck. But because I can program it in Stream Deck, I can use that keyboard shortcut. So other really useful ones that you can program in Stream Deck would be like your mute and unmute your video. But you can also there's a ton of Zoom keyboard shortcuts like mute everyone. And that can be really handy when people come back from breakout rooms to just be able to go boom and mute everyone. I never remember the keyboard shortcut, but then with Stream Deck, you don't have to. Is it possible for you to create different Stream Deck options for different presentations? Yes, it is. So basically Stream Deck, you can have an unlimited amount of this is called a profile. So let me go back to, I got to do it without Stream Deck because I'm showing you it right now. So let me go back to my main camera here. Okay, so with Stream Deck, you've got, oh yeah, look at this camera, comes out way better. Okay, so with Stream Deck, this is called a profile. Every 15 buttons, basically, is either gonna be a profile or it's gonna be a folder. So this is a folder within a profile. And then I can go right back up to kind of the main page. So this is my setup for my Card Sharks presentation or my Card Sharks facilitation, right? So this middle row is all sessions that I've done before. So this is But You're Wrong, a session we're doing next week. This is YouTube, the one that I've been using so far to run this one. Card Sharks, this one I use for kind of any session I'm not going to do more than once, and then triggers. So for my But You're Wrong, what's awesome with this is I have my OBS stuff set up already, but then I also have all of my messages for that session ready to go, right? So every time I run But You're Wrong, I just actually have to open it up on Stream Deck, and then I know what things I want to send in the chat. So that's really handy. And again, I've got my timer, I can toggle the participants thing on and off, my chat, and then I've got my messages preloaded. So I've got my messages preloaded for But You're Wrong, for Card Sharks, and then I don't have to touch them other times. So that's why I really like this little thing. You can do a lot more than we've gotten into, but honestly, just the timer and the text features alone, I think would be, I'm so grateful for this. I sometimes joke that some people facilitate with a co-facilitator, right? And that facilitator will often be the person who's throwing messages in the chat and, observing oh, is there somebody waiting in the breakout room? And because I don't have a co-facilitator, this little buddy is my co-facilitator. Yeah, you can there's a video, I will link it below, which if you get Stream Deck, I have a video that will help you kind of set it up for the first time. And the coolest thing is that you don't actually have, so this thing cost me $150. And I think it's worth it because I use it every day and because I use it professionally. And you don't have to invest in the $150 in order to start seeing if you really like it. They have a they have a app that you can get for, I think, 14 days for free, and then like it's like less than $5 a month, and you can program that same, like if you have like a smartphone, the app will basically give you these buttons, and you can program them to do everything that you can get a Stream Deck to do. Like this is just the like physical hardware for that interface, right? So you can actually start playing around with Stream Deck and see if you like it, which is what I did. I had it on my phone for the first 2 months, and because I was like, oh, but there are times where I want to use my phone and Stream Deck. Like that's what finally tipped me over into getting a physical hardware one. But you can play around with it without ever needing to buy it, and just spend like 2 weeks for free, and then I think $5 after that. You can do that, and we haven't even gotten into like how Stream Deck and OBS can combine. And again, OBS is like everything that you're seeing me do. In this live stream, everything that you are seeing, like me switch between this kind of like different scenes, like different setups. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Gather today. That's okay. Like all of this, you can do all of the things that you're seeing in Zoom. Like you can make that happen. Actually, I think I can show you. Let's see if I can show you that. That'll be trippy if possible. Okay, let's see if I can do it. So, OBS virtual camera. Can you do it while in a stream? Nope. Don't think so. Oh, first spam. Bummer. Okay. Ka-chow. Get out of here. All right. Okay, so I can't show you how it, oh no, I can. Oh yeah, because it is, you're not going to be able to see it. Anyway, so let's see. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it. That makes sense. So anyway, you can put everything that you're seeing in my regular camera. You can see, like everything you're seeing here can be your Zoom screen. So, okay, last question of the day. It's a really good one to end on. How did I find all these great resources and programs? So I would say slowly but surely is how I found them. So one is that I kind of randomly. So like with AhaSlides, I wanted to be able to do a poll for a large group of people. And so I was like, okay, how do I do that? And I think I might have even just like typed in like live polling or mentioned it to somebody as a facilitator and was like, how do I do this? And they were like, I think you want live polling. And then I went out, explored the different apps, and that's how I figured out, okay, I like AhaSlides. It gave me the best kind of free experience, and then I ended up sticking with it forever. So that's how I found AhaSlides. With Mural, I think it was a similar thing of like, I need something that can do sticky notes. And towards the beginning of the pandemic, people were, exploring tons of different softwares. And so I was just like, sticky notes online, right? For me, a lot of it was, how can I do what I'm doing in person and just translate it online? And there's a ton of lists of these things floating around now for virtual facilitation tools. And I think that's how I stumbled on Mural. A class collaborator was the person who told me about OBS. OBS, again, is the way that I'm kind of changing all my screen setups. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I really like OBS. This is really interesting. And then when I went to watch YouTube tutorials about OBS, I ended up seeing stuff about Stream Deck. And as soon as I saw Stream Deck, I was like, oh, a co-facilitator that's electronic, yes please, and that's how I found Stream Deck. So I didn't go to a particular place to find all these things. I instead I was trying to solve problems that I had. So the problem of like, I want to be able to interact with large groups of people. How can I do that? That was live polling. I need to be able to make sticky notes online. That was Mural. I would really like to not have to screen share. And wouldn't it be cool if I didn't have to copy and paste all of my like agenda into the chat constantly? I didn't know that Stream Deck could solve that, and it was a little bit harder to find that answer, but I think that one I luckily stumbled upon. So I would say, like, if you have a problem that you're trying to solve with technology, it's a lot easier than just like, can I get, I think that's a little bit of an easier path than like, how can technology inspire me to change up my facilitations? I think for that, it's about going to different sessions, seeing what people are using and doing, or asking like, hey Meg, what technology inspires you, or what things, what can I explore that I may not have considered yet? So we're gonna wrap up this live stream, our first live stream. If you enjoyed it, please let us know, and let us know what you would like to see more of. I made something today that is just kind of like a request box for live stream. So let me find that and throw it in the chat for the future, because maybe you already have ideas and things you would like to see in our next live stream. So let me throw that in the chat right now. Kaboosh. So right on there, I'm gonna pin this one. Can I edit it? Nope. Let's see. I'm just gonna pin it. Okay. You are welcome. Thank you for being here, both of you. Okay, so I've just pinned a comment, or I've just pinned an Airtable link, and in that Airtable link you can drop requests. What would you like to see us live stream about? Would you like to hear even more technologies that I find inspiring or interesting? And or like, what problems are you having in virtual facilitation or facilitation in general that you think you could use some support or ideas around? And we can go explore and find out. Okay. I hope this was interesting. I had fun. I talked for an hour, and that is, I guess, unsurprising to people who know me, and for all of you watching. So thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll let you know when we do another. Follow us on Instagram. Make sure that you'll see it there. We'll try to post in other social networks as well, but that's probably the place we're most reliable. So until next time, everyone, it was great hanging out, and yeah, happy facilitating. And now I'm going to try to find the button to close it. Okay, wish me luck.